with all gacha games, they have different rates and rules for how their banners work. So I thought I'd quickly sort of go over how Wuthering Waves decides to do their banners, because as someone that plays a lot of Genshin and a lot of Honkai Star Rail, it's good to know sort of what to expect with the banners. And I'll be honest, Wuthering Waves so far is pretty good, but we'll go over why that is in just a moment. So here we have the banners, and I'm going to quickly go over sort of how they work and, you know, hopefully any traps to try and avoid. Because some people make the mistakes, and they're not mistakes you want to be making, because they can be quite costly for your account in the long run. So first of all, how do standard character banners work? So the way the banner works, fairly simply, is it's the standard 50-50. If you pull on the banner, within 80 pulls, you will get a 5-star character. Now that 5-star character can be either the limited time event banner, so in this case it would be Jian, or if you've lost the 50-50, it'll be someone from the standard banner. So someone like Zhanshin, Lingyang, or Encore. Now, what happens if you lose the 50-50 is you are now given a guaranteed 100% for that limited time character. Now, the great thing about this, which is something I'm really glad gachas tend to do more of nowadays, is they let you keep that guaranteed 100% for the limited banner. So say you pull for Jian, you lose the 50-50, you get someone like Encore instead. The next limited time banner comes out, there's a new character you want to pull for, you don't want to have to do the 50-50 again, you don't need to worry, you are guaranteed the character within 80 or less pulls. So, standard 50-50. The guarantee never goes away. You could pull Jian now, not play the game for 2 years, providing it survives that long, and then you can pull the next person on the banner, and you're 100% guaranteed to get them. It's very nice, it's lovely, very beneficial. It's still 50-50, which, you know, kind of sucks, but at least you'll still guarantee the character. It's pretty standard form by now. If you've played Genshin, you know what to expect. And next up, we have the weapon banner. Now, the weapon banner is special because there is no 50-50 for the weapon banner. The weapon banner, as you can clearly see here, a 5-star weapon of your choice is guaranteed within 80 convenes. Within 80 pulls, you are guaranteed Jian's signature weapon, the Verdant Summit. This is lovely, as most of the time in gachas, the weapon banner for a free-to-play player, not a good use of income, and it still isn't in something like this, because it, you know, it does cost you at maximum around 80 pulls, which is, you know, a fair bit of bob after a little while. But if you've gotten lucky one patch, you've gotten your limited time character, and you really want their weapon, you're always guaranteed it. There's no chance of losing the weapon. You're not going to be stuck with a 50%. There's not a chance you'll get something else. You will always get the signature weapon, providing you hit pity or get the 5-star early. It is fantastic. But do keep in mind, they do not share the same pull items. A limited timed character would have the Radiant Tide, which is just, you know, the yellow orb, whereas the weapons will have Forging Tide, which is like a yellow sword type thing. So they are two different, they are two completely separate resources. As far as I'm aware, they do cost about the same, if I'm not mistaken. So they are pretty interchangeable in terms of, you know, price. But what that does mean is if for some reason you decide to buy a bunch of Forging Tide, you aren't going to have any of these instead. You're not going to have any Radiant Tide. So you need to be mindful that if you're buying, you know, these in advance, which you really don't need to be doing, to be honest, just leave it as the Asterite or the Astrite. There's like really no need to just be putting money into pulls. They're not going anywhere. They don't get cheaper, they don't get more expensive. So do be mindful that if for some reason you do like bulk buy a bunch of these, you can't then use them on a limited time character because they are specific for the weapon. Whereas in something like Star Rail, they are the same resource. Now, on the flip side, we have the standard banner pulls, also known as the Lustrous Tide. Now, these are only for the standard banner. The standard banner will provide you one of the 5 standard banner characters, you know, Encore, Zhanshin, Lingyang, and the other 2, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. These essentially are pulls you never really want to put any money into, because after the sort of initial couple of months of the game, there's not really anyone on the standard banner you're going to need, because the likelihood is you're going to get them, whether you like it or not, through losing 50-50s. If you play the game on a daily basis and you pull semi-regularly, on the limited time banner, you're going to get the standard characters whether you like it or not. So spending money to get these, usually not worth the risk. The only other thing you can do is this weapon banner, which shares the same premium currency, where you can pick which of these 5-star weapons you want to pull. Again, same kind of premise. They're not an amazing assortment of 5-star weapons. In a few months, there's going to be much better options out there, but it is, you know, an option if you want to specifically improve someone right then and there. And at the very least, with one of these, you are guaranteed the weapon that you choose. Whereas with a character, you're, you know, it's kind of random and who you're going to end up getting every single time. Because there's no 50-50 to lose, because you can't pick who you actually want. But essentially, with standard banner pulls, you really don't want to be putting any of your Astrite into it, because it just isn't worth the money, because you're going to be getting standard banner characters, unfortunately, whether you like it or not. Now, obviously, if you've got pulls that the game has provided you, or you've bought from the shop using the sort of like exchange items you get from pulling characters, that's a completely different story. If the game's handing you free pulls, then you should absolutely do them. There's not much else you can do with them anyway. But personally, you should never be spending any money or premium currency on the standard banner or even the standard weapon banner, because there's not really much point. So do keep in mind, if for some reason you have decided to buy some Lustrous Tides, make sure they're not the blue ones, because you will probably regret it in the future. Just hold onto your Astrite, and then when you need to do a 10 pull, the game will just ask you, do you want to spend 1600 Astrite on a 10 pull? Just say yes. Because as fun as it is to watch this number grow, it's not particularly beneficial, and if you make a mistake, it's not going to be a fun time. I remember, I think it was a Reddit post a while ago, someone accidentally was buying standard banner pulls and they bought like 250 for a character they really wanted. Dangerous to think that that's what people do, but you know, it's an honest mistake. It's easy to make, and I'm hoping with this video it might make things a little bit easier for someone that may or may not fully understand how the banner system works. One thing I want to touch on just before I go is the Waveband. Now, the Waveband, I just want to say, is a phenomenal addition to the game, because it means you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money getting duplicate copies of a 5-star. Now, obviously, you need to get the 5-star initially before you can buy any, but if you manage to pull Gian, and I think with limited time banner characters, it might cost more. I think it's like 335, but don't quote me on that. But with this, you can just buy their next resonator sequence. So essentially their constellation, their eidolon, their resonance. This game's equivalent of the eidolon and constellation system. You can literally just buy it from the shop, and you get these for free just from doing pulls. This early on in the game, you're not going to have a lot. You're not really going to be able to do much with it. But as the game goes on, you're gonna get a ton. And as long as you're not using them to buy, you know, short-term things like pulls, eventually, maybe your 5-star in the game comes back around, you get them, and now you have like 500 of these, and you can get an extra, you know, Waveband and just make them that little bit more powerful. Something to keep in mind. With that though, I think that's all I really need to say. Hopefully it's like somewhat useful to someone. The banner system is pretty easy to understand. If you played Genshin or Honkai Star Rail, you kind of know what to expect by now. But if this is like the first game for you that has these kind of systems, you know, it doesn't hurt to, you know, learn a little bit more. So hopefully it was useful. With that though, I think I'm going to say my goodbyes. Thank you for those that stuck around to the end. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. I've been James, the Mayor of Jamestown, and until next time, goodbye.